It's going to be, don't we? Okay. We just got an announcement. If you have young little children that have decided to vocalize their efforts, there is a cry room in room 10 that has a television that you can see on video what is actually taking place here. I understand there are some close-ups. Next on the show, a special talent from Sally Lindbergh, Story Time for Pasadena 2. Let's have a round of applause for Sally Lindbergh.
Once upon a time in a corn country, there lived a beautiful girl. And this beautiful girl's name was Rendercella. Now, Rendercella lived with her muggly other and her 2 sad blisters. Also, in the same corn country, there lived a Bransom Hints. And this Bransom Hints was going to give a fancy ball. He'd invited people for miles and miles, especially the pitch people. Rendercella's muggly other and 2 sad blisters raced off to buy some drancy fesses to wear to the fancy ball. But Rendercella couldn't go, because all she had to wear was some old wordy dags. Finally, the night of the fancy ball arrived. Rendercella sat down and cried. While she was getting there and shrine, all at once appeared before her, her Gary Mudfather. He touched her with his wagging wand and Hicks white sources appeared to take her to the fancy ball. Now, Rendercella, he said, be sure to be home before midnight or I'll turn you into a pumpkin. And with that, he sent her on her way. Well, Rendercella, when she arrived at the fancy ball, the Bransom Hints met her at the door. For he had been watching behind a wooden window and had seen her arrive. Rendercella and the Bransom Hints danced all night. They love in love. But right then the mid-clock struck night. Rendercella stayed down the prayers, and right when she bleached the rod, she slopped her dripper. The next day, the Bransom Hints went all over the corn country looking for the beautiful girl who had slopped her dripper. Finally, he came to Rendercella's house. He tried it on her muggly other. It fitted it. He tried it on her 2 sad blisters. It fitted it. Finally, he tried it on Rendercella, and it fitted it. It was exactly the side rise. They were married and lived happily after afterwards. Now, the story to this story is, if you go to a fancy ball and want a Bransom Hints to fall in love with you, don't forget to slop your dripper.
Come on down. Good evening. How's everyone doing? What a array of talent this night. And you know, there's a lot of funny things that happen in life, in and out of the church, and I'd like to share a few of those tonight. First one being, I want to tell a story about a return missionary. Something happened to this return missionary when he came back. He, for example, had a girlfriend waiting on him. When he gets off the plane, he was greeted by his family and his girlfriend, who was eagerly waiting at least a hug after 2 years of writing letters, no? And so, guess what? When it came time to hug, all he wanted to do was shake her hand. And, oh my goodness, what had happened? She was real concerned, and so to make a long story short, she went to the mother-in-law. She said, what in the world have I done? Have I offended him in some way? She goes, no, guess what? He's just a lot more spiritual now. And so, you know, she said, well, maybe a picnic would do, or maybe going out to movies. So they did all that. He wouldn't even get close to her enough to give her a kiss. And so what had happened was, one day they were out, and it was a second picnic, and she says, look, I am just fed up. I cannot take this. I don't know if it's me. I don't know what it is. She said, but I want to end this right now. And he goes, well, sister, before we do end, could we end with a word of prayer? You know, all this talking with the kids reminds me of when I was living at home. Dad, he managed to give me some good advice. One of the statements that I remember was, son, if you can't remember it, forget it. Another was, he said, son, if you want to learn something, be sure to always start at the bottom and work your way up to the top. And I said, Dad, I want to learn how to swim. He said, son, have you got to be silly all the time? I can understand a little bit, but all the time? One of the funniest things I guess my dad ever did was, when E.T. came out, you got to understand, my dad's a little hard of hearing. And he said, I remember I went in one weekend, he said, son, have you seen that new movie, LT? LT, Dad? He said, yeah, you know, the little space monkey or whatever it is. I said, Dad, LT, get off the Geritol, baby, for the time. I said, it's E.T. LT might be his cousin, but it's E.T. And he goes, oh, okay. Dad, I'll never forget. I wrote some things so I wouldn't forget. He said, the thing that I wanted to not forget was this, sneezing. Have you ever noticed how when people sneeze, how they will tend to say different words when they sneeze? My dad, he was consistent ever since I can remember being a baby. He would always, when he sneezed, say, Russia! Russia. And if you'll notice people from now on, some of the words they say, I'll never forget this sister who was probably in the neighborhood of close to 400 pounds. Beautiful sister, beautiful spirit, everything. When she would sneeze, it was, Achoo! Achoo! I like to die laughing when I heard this. Do you know, or have you heard, that radio has been around since the time of Adam? That's right, since the time of Adam. The reason where I get that from is, we read in the scriptures where the Lord took a rib from Adam and made the first loudspeaker. Sorry, sister. Okay, and as far as lineage of what line you may be from, as far as Nephites and Lamanites, you know you're true Nephite if you get up before a crowd or at church and your knees knock together and you're burying testimony or something like that, Nephite. And if you notice, if you get tired in the evening, constantly always have to lay down to find peace, Lamanite. Let's talk about food. When I was going to school, we had the opportunity of hearing on the radio in the mornings what we're going to have for lunch that day. And they'd always advertise a hot meal and, you know, all just made it sound really inviting and very appetizing. And it turns out when we get to church, when we get to the school, the only thing that's hot is the milk. Language, here's a good one, language. Here we are in Houston, Texas, a great melting pot, if you will, of different people, different languages, different cultures. And, you know, we're pretty popular here in Texas for having like Tex-Mex. Any Tex-Mex fans out here? As far as we go? Yeah, all right. But I think about the language, Tex-Mex. You know, that's all we hear. What if they had like a Jap-Mex, perhaps? Domo arigato. Riding the rod. No. Okay. What's my time? Time sure flies when you have fun, except for frogs. Time sure fun when you have flies. On my mission, I remember I went to South America, Argentina, and the Pacific. It got so cold that I remember we had to take showers with our clothes on. All right, for this next part, I would like to say, you've heard it been said that man cannot live by bread alone. Well, brothers and sisters, I'm here to tell you today, if you got bread, man, you won't be alone. One day when I was talking to the church, one of my friends, the guy just flat out asked me and said, Brother Barney, you think there'll be Budweiser in heaven? And immediately, without hesitation, I came back and said, yeah, there'll be a Bud, all right, but it'll be much wiser than you. Growing up, as you can tell, kind of small frame, and it was really small going to school. I always remember my clothes. They always came in two sizes, too small and too big. It's kind of like right in the middle, a large boy and a small man. But that never stopped me. I was always happy to help out in any way I could. Just the other day, my boss comes up to me and says, oh my goodness, you've got to help me. You've got to get me out of this jam. I said, boss, what is it? He said, today's my wife's birthday. I just remembered. I just looked at my calendar when I tore the sheet off. I said, we've got to get her something. I said, well, would you like me to go to the florist? Can I pick up some roses or something? And he goes, no, please, look. Call the florist up and see what they have in poison ivy. Folks, it's been great. Thanks.
Anything is possible with Baby Man.